Hello, everybody. Welcome to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney, and I have a jam-packed studio today for you with an experiment that we are trying today. So I'm super excited to welcome to the leadership studio Carrie Vanhouten, Lisa Anne Morrison, and Lulu Braunstein. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
But what I will tell you is that we are here. I'm excited because it is March. It's the month that we women get. We have as a special another thing that's coming to New York very soon, and I tape this out of New York. They're coming to us today from other cities around the world, but they will all come together in New York City coming up for a wonderful show that's already been had a few runs already in California and in San Francisco area and also in LA. And now it's going to make its New York debut at here downtown. And they'll talk to you about how you can get tickets and everything. And we'll be sure to put that in the show notes too, so you can get tickets. But let me tell you a little bit about them. And then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do today, because it's going to be crazy. Lulu Braunstein I'll start with her because she's the producer, and my life in the theater has taught me that you always start with the producer. But the producer grew up in a theatrical family in the UK and found herself involved in local theater wherever life took her. She worked in production for live television events in London many moons ago, and for the past decade, and maybe a little more than that, has produced and directed elementary school musicals in Northern California. So Lulu's here, and she is the producer of the Menopause Monologues. Carrie Vanhouten, right over here, is the creator. She's from Rochester, New York. She's a transplant, a lifelong feminist and theater major from Marymount Manhattan College. She is the creator and co-founder of the Menopause Monologues. All three of these ladies are co-founders. Carrie is raising 3 kids, 2 of whom are pursuing acting degrees at NYU at the very same time. And she regularly performs with her local improv comedy group. She's also a Reiki master and runs the Energy Apothecary, a healing space in the Bay Area. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks, Christine.
And now we have, last but not least, El Directore, Lisa Anne Morrison, who is the director and the third co-founder of the Menopause Monologues. She's worked as a theater professional for over 25 years. Her acting credits include television, 13 Reasons Why, Beverly Hills 90210, commercials, and theater with performances at California Shakes, Theater Works, Magic Theater, Z Space, A Noise Within, Laguna Playhouse, more. She is the co-founder of the LA-based improv group, Those Meddling Kids, which performed across Los Angeles and had a successful run at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. She is a longtime member of Theater of Note in LA. Oh, I know that. And Lisa has also served on the board of the Town Hall Theater in the Bay Area, where she helped launch the New Voices series to amplify underrepresented playwrights. So you guys, welcome, ladies. They have come together. We're going to hear a little bit about their story. I'm going to ask them to tell a little bit about their origin story to get together and what they're doing with the Menopause Monologues, and a little bit about what that theater experience is like. And then how this intersects right now with stepping into your leadership is that they were recently here in New York. And I had given them, as some of you who listen to the podcast know, I'm a big fan of the 6 Types of Working Genius, which is an assessment and then a workshop that I'll go out and do at a lot of different companies. And so I had sent them, when they started working together pretty regularly, Carrie had said, hey, can you send us an assessment for the 6 Types of Working Genius? I want to see it because we're working together, kind of where we intersect. I was like, absolutely, that's so fun. Sent it to them, and they've been looking at it, and I printed out their results, and I thought for fun, we would have a little bit of a live reading or workshop between all of them where we talk about their geniuses and how they intersect and where their frustrations are and where there might be some conflict, where they can, things to look out for and things that are really ways to jump into more. And that hopefully some of you listening can think about the people that you work with most in your life, whether that's at your work, who are you intersecting with the most, or people that you have a great time with, and sometimes where there can be bumps along the way. You can listen to this and see if you have anything in common, or even if it's in your personal lives, people that are your friends or your romantic interests or your kids and how you can maybe find some insights here. So they have willingly put themselves into this today, and we're going to give it a go. It might be a disaster, but I feel like I'm in good company. We're going to have fun either way. So here we go. Before we start, Carrie, why don't I don't know why I'm picking on you, but why doesn't somebody tell us your kind of origin story of how you guys came together for this?
Yeah, sure. You
She
can
is
pick
the
on me.
perfect person for it.
Okay.
So a few years ago, I was having weird symptoms. I was having like these huge rushes of rage, and I was having migraine headaches every single month, and I just wasn't feeling myself. And I thought I might be losing my mind, and it was affecting my relationships, mainly my husband. Poor guy. And so, like every little sister does, I called my big sister and I was like, Julie, what's happening to me? And she said, Carrie, I think you might be going through perimenopause. I was like, what? And so, long story short, she told me a horrific story about the shitty. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, well, sure. You're
The
that
poor.
person. I'm kidding. Yes, you can. We don't have a lot
No.
of we don't have a lot of young people that listen to our stepping into our leadership, but you never know. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll keep it PG-13. No
No, it's
problem.
fine.
So she received very poor medical care around her perimenopause, and I got really mad. And I channeled that rage into a creative idea, which was the menopause monologues. I thought, what if we all heard each other's stories? Then we could all learn from one another because, sharing is the best medicine for women. So I called my theater besties, Lisa and Lulu. We've always had a great time on stage together. Lisa has been our acting teacher and our improv coach for years, Lulu and I both. And I said, hey guys, how about a show? Let's do a show called the Menopause Monologues. And they both said yes. And gosh, that was 2024. And we've been rocking and rolling ever since. Really busy. It's been great.
Really busy. And you have a show coming up, right? So you got to give a shout out for that because I'd love for some of our New York listeners to check it out. So when is it and how can they get tickets?
Yeah, it's the first weekend of May, including a little Thursday, April 30th. So it's April 30th to May 3rd. And that's at Here Art Center. And you can go to here.org. It's HERE.org for tickets. And we're
Right.
having only 5 shows in one weekend. So
Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys.
yeah,
So let's dive into how you work together. So you guys have been working together how long?
a
Since,
couple years.
well, yeah, a
Yeah.
year and some change, maybe a year
And
and a half.
before that, you were friends and worked with each other here or there, but not like as intensely as you do putting this show on, right? And it sounds like you have pretty clear lanes. Like Lisa has as a director, Lulu's producer, Carrie, your creator, right? Like, so I assume that plays out in how, like, just like a business in terms of like the things that you focus on. Is that right? Or how
Yeah.
many things overlap?
A lot of things actually overlap because
Okay.
there's just 3 of us. So
Yeah.
we're all, producing in one way. But then there's like when you think about like being like on a movie, a line producer deals with the budget, that's going to be Lulu. But then if there's our social media and our graphic design, that's Carrie. And then when it gets to be, we all collaborate artistically for what's going to be on the stage. But when it comes time for like rehearsal, then I am the director.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Good clarification. All right. So when they took the tests, for those of you listening, Carrie, who was the one who spoke earlier, if you're listening, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see her in the hot pink. But Carrie came out, her working geniuses were tenacity, number 1. Okay. So tenacity, number 1. Second was an innovation, right? So innovator was her second one, or not innovation, but invention, as we call it. So first one was tenacity, second one was invention. Then her working frustrations are galvanizing and wonder being the biggest frustration. Okay, so we'll talk about that. If you don't remember what those are, we'll see them kind of play out as we go. Lisa, who was just clarifying for us, she's the director, who was just clarifying for us how the roles intermingle. Lisa's number 1 was enablement. And for those of you who remember enablement, those are your folks who are the first ones when it's time to implement something. They're the first ones ready to jump on to say, I could do that, or let's get this together, or let's put on a show. They're the first ones to be like, I could start that idea. That's our enablement geniuses. Second, she has discernment, which is very important in the middle stage of work, in the activation stage of work, really looking at what ideas work, what needs to be tweaked for a certain audience or a certain city, maybe that type of thing she's really good at, I would imagine. And then her frustrations are also wonder, which is aligns with Carrie's frustration of wonder. And wonder, and then her other frustration is invention. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Wonder and invention are the two geniuses at the very beginning phase of work. Generally, when we talk about it together, they all spell out widget. So the W and the I of widget is wonder and invention, and those are the ideas generally in a phase of work that's about the creative process of coming up with something new, right? Wonder is the questioning, wondering what's out there, what are we not seeing, what's possible. A lot of founders out there have a lot of wonder genius. A lot of folks I see it a lot in, like, scientists have a lot of it. Sometimes people who are artists to a large degree sometimes will have a lot of wonder. They tend to be, not always, but they tend to have a lot of, like, they're very introspective and questioners. So they also tend to be pretty observant and a lot of times on the quieter side, those wanderers. Inventor genius, which is also in that first kind of stage of work, right? Where your ideation stage, we call it, that first stage is ideation. They're the ones who love to solve a problem. So Lulu also has invention as a genius, and she has galvanizing, which we'll talk about in a minute. But since we're talking about the W and the I of widget, the invention stage is people who want to solve things. They generally are looking for, after the wanderers thought of the question, they want to come up with ideas, and they love to come up with lots of ideas, and they come up with ideas all the time, whether you want them to or not. They're constantly coming up with new ideas. You know, my husband is an invention genius, and my family, we make fun of him because the kids make fun of him because he's always like, I have $1 million idea. And we're like, okay, what do you have? What tonight is your $1 million idea? But they are constantly thinking of ideas. There's generally not a lack of them, but this can come out in different ways. For some people, it could be solving a problem. Like, it could be an engineer that really likes to solve how something works or how something comes together. It could also be something that is more creative, like coming up with new ideas or things like that. So that's the W and the I. The D and the G, which are in that middle stage of work, are discernment and galvanizing. So Lisa, you're discernment, and Lulu, you're galvanizing, right? So discerners, I also have discernment. Discerners are really important in the brainstorming process. We are also creative, but the way we do it is a little bit different in how it comes up. It is very difficult for us to listen to just a brainstorm without automatically thinking what's wrong with that idea or how can I make it better. It's very hard because we're constantly thinking like we're good at it. So discerners see patterns very easily. It does not surprise me that you're a director. They can see, oh, this is going to work. This makes sense. You've been doing that probably since you were a kid. They tend to have very good instincts about something, and they know how to drop into those instincts pretty well. A frustration of discerners is that a lot of times people have no idea why you know what you know. So they're like, give me the data behind that. And that could be very frustrating for discerners because we don't necessarily have the data. We don't know how we know it, but we're pretty much right. And discerners do have the thing you want to do with the discerners, you really do want to trust them because their instinct is usually pretty right on. So that's the D. The G is where you come in, Lulu, because I also have G, but G is what we call our galvanizers. And they're the people who really like to get people on board with ideas. They get excited about things. They want to influence people. It's not surprising that you have the title of producer because you have to galvanize a lot of people. They tend to be good fundraisers. They tend to be people that get people on board with ideas. You can influence people. You probably are the person that they're like, send her in to talk to them. Send her in on stage to tell everybody welcome and thanks for giving your money to the Menopause Monologues. Whatever it is, those people, put them in front of a crowd and they will connect and influence others. So they're really important in that middle stage of work, which is what we call activating. So they're really important after the idea's been thought of, then discerned, then you hand it to that galvanizer to like get everybody on board and excited, whether that's a cast in your case, whether that's employees in some case, whether that's your constituents or who your audience or the people that you're trying to fundraise from. And then after G comes E. So then we come back to enablement, Lisa, and this is where after you've got people kind of excited on board, we come to the implementation stages. And these are the people that get shit done, right? So the E's are the people that are like, I got it, I can do it. And they tend to be really good people. So they know people, they know who has too much on their plate, who doesn't have enough, who can I give this to, who needs more, who do I need to back off of? Like you have probably in your life a lot of friends. You probably are really good at remembering their birthdays. You're probably really good about being very thoughtful in what you give them or in your families. Enablement people we generally love to have them in the workplace. They tend to be pretty nice. They keep the peace. They'll call up someone and go, I know you have a lot on your plate. How you doing? Or I'm reading this, and you mix that with your discernment. So you probably use your discernment in service of people. So that's probably why you can see like, oh, something's off with Carrie. Let me just check in with her. That's probably going to be something that you would be pretty good at, I would suspect, right? And also, likewise, if you have actors on the stage, you're also going to be able to be like, how are they doing, as a person? And I'm going to key into them that way. That's what I would imagine that you'd be pretty good at. And then come the T's. Carrie, we're back to you now. The T is that very last genius, and they are the people that are going to make sure that it gets across the finish line. Like if there is a deadline, they make it. If there is a target, they get to it. It drives them absolutely crazy if you keep changing the scope of work so that they can't accomplish something, right? They need to check that. They get a lot of pleasure from a checklist.
My God.
And if they do something that's not on that checklist, they will often write it down so they can check it off.
I do that too.
So it's really funny that you have I, which is at the very beginning, and then you have T, which is at the very end, because that means your brain lives in two worlds. A world of invention and creativity, and then a world of like getting shit done. And so those two things are really far apart from each other and can make you probably a little bit crazy sometimes because you're probably getting in your own way sometimes in one of those things. One way could be, for instance, if you're in the invention phase, a lot of inventors who also have T will come up with an idea and then they'll start implementing it to try to get it done before it's been discerned and that it is even a good idea to focus on. Lisa, do you think Lisa just put her finger forward if you're listening. So Lisa, you noticed that in Carrie?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. She works extraordinarily fast.
Yes.
And so she comes up with something and then it's done. And I'm often like, did you send that already? Like, let's take a minute.
Let's take a minute. You just described the dilemma that often comes up with people who have discernment, because often people who have I and T want to skip you altogether. They don't mean to, but we can't. You're slowing them down.
That's hilarious, because there are times when Lulu and Carrie come up with stuff and they'll like try to hide it from me. Like
Yes.
We don't know. We don't need to show her that, because she's just gonna poke holes in it, try to make it better. It's fine.
Right.
It's good.
Right. Because you can imagine that after they're having fun. Brainstorming is probably the funnest thing they will do together, right? They're on a high. Yes. And then when you're on that high, Carrie wants to take that high and guess what? Go to her other genius of implementing. And Lulu wants to take that high and keep it going by galvanizing that idea. So they're excited about an idea. Lulu galvanizes them more. And then if they get you involved, you're going to stop that energy. And then they got to sit in their frustration and they got to go, this isn't fun, right?
It's so true.
I want to go back to this.
Yeah.
And so we see it all the time in workplaces. You're not alone. They will do it without even realizing it because they want to just get to the part where they can make this happen, right? And she'll be happy once it's done. But then you're sitting there, I would imagine, because I am a discerner as well, going, why are they not bringing this to me? right? Like, this is crazy. I can see that there's ways this could be, if we're not seeing the fault, we could definitely see how it could be better. But it does take time. Discernment takes time. And so it slows down a process to a point where people are not always comfortable. But it is important to getting the best product in the long run and to making sure that you're not spinning your wheels, creating, galvanizing and creating all these ideas that aren't going to actually hold the test of time, So that's a really good frustration point that you're bringing up. And part of the wonderful part of Widget is you want to kind of follow the process to see what are we missing here. And it will sometimes go faster than you might like, Lisa, and sometimes it will definitely go slower, Carrie, than you or Lulu will like, So I do think it's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about that. I think it's interesting because you and Lulu, Carrie, both have I. And so we often will see whatever the genius is, the one that people have together can be interesting because if there's 3 people, somebody's going to feel a little bit outside of that in any sort of circumstance, right? If you had 3 people that had T, trust me, you'd be if you had 2 people rather that had T, those 2 people would be executing all the time. And the other person would be like, oh my God, can we stop and talk about something else? I do think for 3 people, for just 3 people on your team, you are very well balanced. I mean, you have everything represented except for W, which is the wonder genius. So, and as I say all the time in business, a little wonder goes a long way. So you can rent
Good
out
then.
wonder,
They're different than invention, Christine.
So wonder is the question. I wonder. So imagine it being you're kind of a more observer or a thinker in that way. You're not necessarily you're not coming up with ideas at all, which is why wonder is your frustration. So wonder is just sitting in the question a little longer than you're comfortable with. Wonder is also slower. Generally, wonder and discernment tend to take a little more time, but wonder can be really frustrating for a few of you. It's frustrating, and actually it's frustrating for all 3 of you. All 3 of you have this as a frustration. So you're going to tend to skip wonder because we don't like to sit in our frustrations long. So we just don't do it most of the time. So what I would suggest is wonder is really important, especially when where you guys are in terms of you're still I get the sense that this is, while you've been working on this for a couple of years, it's still relatively new. It still changes pretty often. There could potentially be a lot of questions that you could have about where to go next.
Yeah.
And wonder is the time where you sit and you just question, like, wow, what if everything was completely different than it is today? Or what if theater didn't even exist overall? Or what if there was what if there were no actors? Like, what if we changed the name? Whatever it is, those questions would come up, right? The problem is that you guys, Carrie and Lulu, because you have invention as a genius, you want to take those questions right away and your brain is going to be more comfortable coming up with solutions. So you're going to take whatever question pops into your head or comes up with the 3 of you, and you're going to start inventing ideas. And that's a good thing, obviously, but you need to allow, I would imagine, a little more questioning time, and it's going to feel a little awkward. So I like to call it a wonder window. I give myself I'll say to a team, because there's a lot of teams in business that don't have a lot of wonder, let me say. And when they do, those people really slow down the work flow. But they are also very important, right? A lot of entrepreneurs have wonder. A lot of creators do. A lot of people in marketing that come up with really wild ideas. A lot of them have some wonder, because they're thinking really outside the box. But you have a wonder window, I call it, where you say at the beginning of a stage of work or at the end, or maybe it's before you go to a new city or whatever, and you say, okay, let's take 30 minutes or let's take 15 and just ask questions. And you kind of do like a brainstorm, but just questions, like a question storm. And you just say, we're going to not allow ourselves, when we start to try to solve it, we're going to stop ourselves. And honestly, Lisa's probably the best one to stop you because the 2 of you are going to want to jump to solutions quite quickly. So you'll stop it and go, wait a minute, let's just stick to the question, and just start seeing where those questions take you. You don't have to have a solution. Don't let the the how crush the wow. That comes from Harris the Third.
And
Yeah.
Erica Petrelli.
Erica Petrelli Bye, who brought it to us. That's so true. Very good. Yes. So you want to let that sit in that little wonder a little bit longer than you're comfortable with, and then move on to solutions. Like I said, it doesn't need to be too much, but you do need to think like, what are we not asking? What questions are we not asking ourselves here? And the other way to do it is to bring in somebody who's a really good wonderer, and invite them to that conversation, because you'll see the questions that they go to are going to be a little bit deeper, a little more wilder. It might make you a little more uncomfortable, but it's a good person to bring in.
Yeah, we have sometimes a business consultant who does ask a lot of big questions, and I bet you that's one of her geniuses.
It might be. It might
Yeah.
be. Some people are trained in it, to do that, but sometimes you'll see it in folks right away when they have it. Because also, if you worked with them regularly, you'd start to get frustrated with them because they're going to slow down your process. Especially you,
So
Carrie,
what
because
is
you're what I call a double disruptor. So, and actually, so are you, Lulu. You have, oh no, Lulu, you have, oh yeah. Yeah, you are a double disruptor, and so is Carrie, which means like
Poor Lisa.
Lisa, I know.
Quit. I'm done. You all on your shoulders. Yikes.
You've got quite a good drive towards both of those things, so that can be challenging. What were you going to say, Carrie?
What's the downfall? Like, what's something bad that could happen if we don't have a wonder? What's the downfall? What's
You
the
might
pit?
be slow to notice. You might be slow to notice, like the world is changing right now, and we're not changing with it.
It's sort of
This
what's
is
in the future or how.
right. It's there.
Yeah.
It's very future forward thinking.
Uh-huh.
They tend to
Is that
be
why we
like
can't?
5-10 years ahead. What'd you
Gosh,
say?
well, yeah, we are terrible at that. We have sat down so many times to try to come up with like a 5-year plan or something, and it's hard. It's hard for us.
Yeah, because you're much more comfortable in the immediate, right? And wanderers they're the kind of employees that are constantly like, but what is this going to look like in 10 years, you guys? And you want to just like, shut up. Like we just get this product out the door now. But that is an important voice. It's just that voice is important at certain times, not when you're trying to execute.
Yeah.
So
Okay, cool.
if you're trying to get a show up, what'd you say, April 30th? This
Yeah.
is not the time to wonder. Now is the time to execute.
So funny. It's so funny because so many things keep coming up. But yes, I was just thinking it's a startup as well as show-based. And so we keep producing things. So there's always something to do. But we just literally in the last month got thrown 2 more kind of mini projects that all 3 of us are like, yes, let's do them in the next month, right? I mean, actually it's falling on Lisa and Carrie because I'm not there, but we're like, we can do that and we can activate, but anything 5 years from now, we are just like, bleh, stuck. So it is, it's absolutely, yeah. And yeah, it's funny.
And, you are a startup. I'm glad you said that, Lulu, because that is important to remember, which is a little bit different. You are in a constant phase of having to like pick yourself up by the bootstraps, get it done, work hard, next idea. And the interesting thing that can come up is to just keep your observant, and Lisa's going to be good at this. She's going to be really important in this process because as these new ideas come up that you guys are working on, you're going to be focused on the ideas that you want and then executing those ideas. But somebody needs to be sitting back and looking for like, what can we learn out of this? What are the patterns that I see? Is there anything here for our future? And Lisa, I would say for you're going to notice those things anyway. So you don't have to talk about them or try not to talk about them necessarily in the moment to those guys. Keep them logged. Write them down for when you do have a moment to talk. Because some of it's just like, I got to get this finished. You have to do, you're basically doing 3 projects in like a month and a half or something. You know what I mean? So there's a reality of execution that's in front of you, Yeah. The other thing that I could see potentially that could come up based on your map, and because when we do the Working Genius, everybody gets like a team map, which I'll send to you guys, but it shows you like where people's frustrations are and where they kind of are aligned and where there's blanks in the paper. And certainly everybody has a wonder frustration. So that's one thing to look out for. I think the other thing to look out for is that what we already kind of started to speak about, and I'd like to hear Lisa's point of view more on this, Lisa, is that because you both have invention, Lulu and Carrie, and you're quite strong in your geniuses are both in the disruptor phase. They're kind of disruption, like they exert their energy on the world. They're not the observant ones that are watching the world and seeing what happens. They're the ones who are like, I'm going to make this happen. That can be overwhelming to work with in just a triad, And so, especially for a discerner who really needs to kind of step back and think about things or take a little more time with things. So I'd love to hear, Lisa, from your point of view, where those frustrations come up, because I think I see it a lot in companies and different teams all over, see that.
I'm sorry, is that sound again? Do you guys hear it?
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't hear it.
We just lost you, Lisa. We just lost you altogether.
I can lip read, Lisa.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why
Okay,
it just
if
will
if,
go
it,
out.
if it doesn't bother the podcast, then I'll get that sound out of my.
Oh, here comes
I'll
Tatiana,
stop
so we'll
talking
hear what
about it.
she says.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. It's fine now. Okay.
Happening. Okay.
Okay.
Where
But
did
you
she
can
go?
hear me. Okay.
Okay, there we go. All right. So, Lisa, talk a little bit about that process for you, what you see.
Talk a little bit about what? Say that again.
Talk about the process of when they're coming up with a little bit about what that feels like when they're coming up with ideas and so forth, and they're in
Yeah.
there kind of, because certainly you're a creative person, so it's not that
Yeah.
you don't have creative ideas. I mean, discerners have some of the most. It's just that ours come out a little bit differently. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think, we're learning each other better as we go on, but there are times where I feel like I come in and I'm just a wet blanket, that I just take all the fun out of it. They're like vibing and this and and then I'm just like not.
yeah. Yeah.
That's what it can feel like. It doesn't always feel that way. And the truth is their ideas are really good. Both of them come up with great ideas. And so there's something in me that I need to go. I like that you reminded me to not say anything and just listen, because I'm quick to poke holes. I'm a Jewish family. All we do is complain and no, I think it's this. I think it's this. And it's been a frustration for other people in my life that I am kind of devil's advocate too often. So the truth is, every idea that they come up with, luckily, this I'm in partnership with two super creative people who come up with great ideas. But it's just the way I work, and it's not a no. I'm not saying no, I don't want to do it at all, but it can read that way because I'm just asking questions and trying to figure out how we can actually do that. And it probably comes off negative when I don't mean that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lulu.
I'll just say more often than not, we hear, let me think about that. Let me get back to you on that one, because I think and also we have learned that more often than not, or I don't even know where the balance is, but we all need to take that step back and think about it. And Lisa is so often right.
Yeah, sometimes she'll say, let's think about it, to one
know.
of my really great ideas. And I'm like, why didn't she just say yes? And then the next day, after she's given me the gift of 24 hours,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? It was nothing. So I need her breaks sometimes.
Yeah. And I want you to hear that, Lisa, because I think it's interesting. Your discernment is paired with enablement, and enablement is going to make you want to be pretty nice to people. And so you're going to think about them more often than you think about yourself, or
That's my whole life.
potentially, yeah, exactly. These tend to be our whole life. You're going to think about them and their feelings sometimes more than the greater good of the show even. And so that's really important to keep in check, because while this enablement is a superpower of yours, it can also be your kryptonite. So
Yes.
when the interesting thing that we don't always realize about invention geniuses is they have a million ideas. So it's okay to tell them that this idea isn't going to work, because they'll get over that and then they'll be ready for the next one, because they have no qualms. They have no fear that they're going to run out of ideas.
Yeah.
So they kind of need you to, because they need your discernment in any sort of art form, but in business as well. We need those discerners to voices to come in. And if your discernment was matched with a different genius, like I have people who are DTs, like discernment and tenacity. We call them the butt kickers. They don't care. Like, they see the problem, they tell you how it is, and like on with the next, like off with their head. Like, they don't care. Do you know what I mean? Now that would cause other kinds of conflict. You don't have that. But I would say that you need to, when you start to feel yourself in those brainstorming moments, I think it's good to hold your mouth a little bit. Let them invent for a certain amount of time. We're going to brainstorm on this for a half an hour or an hour, and you guys go, and then you just get it. Just listen and try to stay in that space. And then they're going to turn to you and say, okay, Lisa, discern away. Go ahead and discern away. And then they're going to keep their mouth shut and they're going to take notes, because as you talk, guess what's going to happen to them? They're going to think of a million other ideas. Or Lulu is going to try to convince you of the other idea, because that's her genius, is to influence, right? So then they're going to have to be quiet and try to listen to your questions and wonderings, and it's going to feel slow, and you guys are going to all of a sudden get tired, and you're going to want to go get tea, and you're going to get distracted, and you're going to become kittens.
Lay on the floor.
And yes. And they're going to be like, haven't we done this enough?
Camera.
Seriously.
Oh my God.
And so that's why you have a timer on, so that you can see, okay, I've only endured this for 15 minutes, right? Because Lisa's going to be excited to talk about these things more and like wonder and, get us into this and think about, well, wait a minute, if we did this, or, I liked a little bit of this, but what if we did this? Or I don't know, that's not going to work. And you guys are going to be like, and so that's important to let her go with that process and trust that she's going to come back. And then once you then can make a decision. But really, if you're wondering who's going to make the decision, she should have a greater sense of what's going to work because of that.
Yes.
I got to go. Bye.
But it's funny because I think that naturally happens.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, most of the time was Lisa, she puts gives it the check, the go mark. I can't speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we all feel good, and then we start galloping.
And the gallop is where you're going to come in, because once you've made a decision, you got to get everybody activated on that. Do you know what I mean? And focus on
Lisa, Carrie's already finished and moved on to another job.
Stuff. I know.
Carrie's already sent it. Done. Checked.
I know.
Done. But Christine, that's so interesting about the galvanizing piece for Lulu, because it's going to sound like an exaggeration, but she knows everybody.
Everybody.
And she has a million friends, and we did a fundraiser at her house, and I think we had 170 people there. I don't know there's no one else in my life, honestly, that could do that.
Yeah.
Not one person.
Yeah.
And everybody loves her. Everyone.
Yeah. And that I could see that. And that's, you probably don't even realize, Lulu, how special that is, because it's just how you've probably always been to some degree. And so it's nice for somebody who's a discerner to point that out, because you can trust it, right? That's a very good, she's good at reading those moments, right? Yeah. And I think that galvanizing piece is going to be really important for getting other people on board, getting people, the interesting thing about Carrie, I'll just pick on her for a minute, is that because she has tenacity, and we value tenacity in every part of work. People with tenacity are the most employable people there are because they are going to make something happen, right? And people who have E and T together, they're the most valued people. They can find a job in any business whatsoever, right? But those T's, because they want to get stuff done. But the interesting thing is that they don't have a lot of patience. And so they can really just steamroll through people in getting stuff done that maybe needed more time to galvanize or get people on board. They can just skip that stage altogether. She would like to go right from invention to getting it done. And that middle part is really.
Yeah, I mean, thank God I didn't decide to do this show by myself, right?
Yeah.
It would be nowhere. It wouldn't have happened.
It'd be
I would have thought
done.
of the idea, and then I tried to do it. Oh, it didn't work. I wonder
And it'd
why.
be over.
Yeah.
Or even if it
But-
works, she'd be on to something new. Like they just can't help it. It's like, oh wait, this shiny object over here is newer, and let me focus over here. And unless you have somebody with discernment to kind of bring you back and go, wait a minute, what's most important right here, right now?
The ADHD people have more. I wonder if there's a correlation.
I have no idea.
See, I'm wondering.
That is a good one.
Wow.
You already
Thanks, guys.
listened.
I'm doing it.
Learning.
I'm growing.
I have no idea.
Implementing.
I have no idea. Nor, Lisa, do I know if more Jewish families have discernment. So either of those two things, do not write into the show and blame me. That you can write to Lisa Anne Morrison or Carrie Vanhouten for those notes.
And those Jewish listeners will be like, Morrison? No, because my maiden name is Hyman. There's a Jew for you.
Okay. There you go. I'm curious in looking at it, is it that with the tenacity piece, Carrie, is there ever any frustration there from your side of the viewpoint? Because there are a lot of people in business with tenacity, and they will often tell me their frustrations. But do you ever have any frustrations in terms of people not understanding how quickly you want to move on something, or not enough stuff getting done, or not enough not enough time for execution, anything in that area?
Yeah, sometimes. There's things that I do on my own, like a lot of the graphic design stuff and the website stuff that I just kind of mostly just own, and I like being able to just like work 16 hours in a row on that one thing, and that sort of is satisfying to me. And I love collaborating, obviously. But yeah, I do, it's like almost like a spiritual practice of patience, reminding myself to be patient. And, I'm a little woo-woo. So from my understanding, like I understand that Lisa is a Virgo, and that's an earth sign. And she is like grounding and slower, but she has a roots, and I need roots. Lulu and I got a lot of fire in our charts. And without her, we might just burn out quickly and extinguish. So I don't know. I kind of went lots of different places there.
Yeah.
But yeah, patience.
Yeah.
But I think that's good as a person to be more patient, right?
It is, and there are times for it, and then there's not, right? And so I think what's interesting is it's so valuable to have you on the team for this tenacity. And I love what you said, that there are times where if you're given, I mean, think about that, folks. She said she'll work 16 hours to get something done. Who doesn't want somebody working for them that will do that, right? That is the power of this tenacity genius, because it's not that the thought of that, I want to jump out my window, right? Like that is my tenacity is my biggest frustration. What you just said is really important. If you have someone with tenacity, tell them this is the area that you can run with. You have control. You don't need to you don't bog them down in bureaucracy. You don't bog them down in getting approvals on all this stuff. Let the fast horses run. Say, this is your box. Do everything in this. So I think that is brilliant that you guys outlined. This is where you need to run, especially in a world like social media and stuff that needs to have a lot of content created quickly. You don't want to have to get approvals on every idea. Oh my God, Lisa's brain would be exploding. Like that's so much.
I
You
know.
know?
We dabbled in that for about 5 seconds, and then we were both like, "Okay, we gotta this
Yes.
isn't gonna work."
Yes.
Yeah. I had to give up.
Yeah.
I
Creating
had to
a
give up.
flyer or yeah.
Yeah. But if it's
Yeah.
bigger things like the direction of the show, then you need to think about that. Direct 5-year plan of the three of you. I think if you're having trouble with a 5-year or 10-year plan or any of that stuff, that is a good time to bring in someone from the outside that can give you a little perspective and facilitate a
Mhm.
conversation.
Mhm.
But the person who, once that decision is made, that this is where you're going to go in 5 years, Lisa's going to be a good person to keep remembering that idea and making sure that all your decisions are somehow keeping that 5-year plan in mind. Where
Mm.
you guys are going to be very valuable is coming up with the new ideas that are going to get you there. Right? What are the ideas that are going to get us there? And then she's got to discern it and go, wait a minute, guys, is this in line with where we're headed? Is this in line with what we want to do? Or is this just a fun idea for fun's sake?
Christine, could you talk a little bit more about galvanizing? Because it's Lulu's number one, and it's my frustration.
Carrie, one of the reasons that it's your frustration is you don't want to get people on board with your ideas. You want to have your ideas and you want to get them done. But the thought of like getting everyone's buy-in is exhausting to you, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So sometimes the way that can work out is you'll have a really good idea, but the energy to convince people that it's a good idea, you will just let the idea die rather than convince them, right? And so that's where Lulu can jump in, because if she also believes this is a good idea and Lisa's discerned it and you've all agreed this is the direction we're going to go, she needs the ball, because she needs to be able, she'll have the energy. It actually excites her. It's a challenge. Like, let me see. I'm excited about this idea. I'm in a way, you're proselytizing about the power of this to people. And because she has that kind of charisma and magnetism, people immediately are like, yes, girl, tell me more. Let's go for drinks. Let me have it. Okay. And so that can be really important also between the three of you. Once you know this is the idea we're going to have, when one of you is starting to feel like this is hard, or I don't like this piece of it, or I'm frustrated, she's going to be able to like be the coach on the sidelines that kind of revs you up. Like, you go out there, we can fight another day. We're in service of this bigger idea. Don't forget how good idea this is. Think about so and so. She'll tell stories. I'm sure she's a good storyteller. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's really. I can when you're saying that, I'm picturing Lulu when we're in the theater and those producing weeks. Like, you really shine when we're in the hardest moments of our whole work.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
Lisa and I are in awe of you.
Yeah. She's nonstop too. She's tireless on a level
Yeah.
that's mind
It's a
blowing.
lot of galvanizers have a lot of energy. We have bursts of energy. Bursts of energy. Your energy, Lisa, is lower and steadier. It's just different.
What's that?
You have steady energy, but it's lower energy, but it's steady throughout. Whereas their energy is going to come into bursts, bursts of energy, and then they'll maybe crawl up on the couch at some points, right? I know that Lulu has to go in a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to ask you, as we start looking at it, think about these things and the worst thing one can do with their working genius is try to be something that they're not, or try to be someone that they're not, or try to say, I'm going to work on my frustrations. So if you leave here today and you say, I'm going to try to get better at wondering, that is the wrong thing to think. Because
Okay, we're not supposed to work on these.
you're not supposed to work on, we're such good students, especially a tenacity person is going to want to check off, I can be better at this, this, and this. Instead, double down on your geniuses and get really good at your geniuses, and just know when to hand the ball to somebody else. Like, it's their time. Spotlight here now. And know that you're always going in kind of an order, and where you'll start to feel, we always do this analogy of an airplane, of turbulence. It's you don't feel sick if you're in an airplane and you start up high and you start going down low slowly. But where you feel sick is when it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. And so you really want to say, like, okay, this is wonder. Now we're in invention for a while. Then we're in discernment. And now we're in galvanizing. And now we're in enablement. Now we're in tenacity. and back again. And you want to kind of say, like, what does this require right now? This requires tenacity. All right, Carrie, tell us what to do. Tell us what to do. And let her, like a drill sergeant, say, you need to do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. And you guys, okay. And you try to, keep up. If it's tenacity is not invited to a discernment party, you know what I mean? So that's when you're going to not try to be a discerner, Carrie. You'd be terrible. Instead, you're going to let Lisa shine in that moment, so it's about kind of the passing off of things. Make sense?
Really cool.
Okay.
Fascinating. I could talk about this for 5 more hours.
I know, but I've taken your time enough. If you guys, please come out, everybody, see them in action at the Menopause Monologues and celebrate women on that day. And also for all of us out there who are looking, how can I jump into my working geniuses? Feel free to do yours. It's the 6 types of working genius. It comes from Patrick Lencioni's group, the Table Group. And if you want to learn more about it, you can see we have other episodes in the podcast on it. So hopefully we'll see you guys when you come back to New York.
You're such an expert at working genius. I love it. So cool.
Thank you.
Thank you
love
for
it.
having us.
Absolutely. Bye, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
For the full conversation, search Stepping Into Your Leadership wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.